the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by
Peerless AV, driving technology through innovation.
It's Tom Albright with AVNation with the women of AV, looking at the women that make up this incredible industry. My name is Tom Albright, your host, but I am not the one, important one here. With me today is a young lady that I got to know a couple of years ago. Her name is Brittany DiCesare, and she is with Control Concepts. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. So you and I, you have formerly worked with Avixa. Now you work with my buddy Steve Greenblatt, who's the host of his own actually a couple of podcasts. And Steve, a number of years ago, I want to say he was the first independent programmer, but I could be wrong about that. But he was one of the first. How about that?
Definitely.
Safe saying that. And Steve and I have known each other for a long time. And he called me up end of last year and said that he was getting ready to hire you, and I was incredibly excited for him, but also for you, because you are one of the most positive and just uplifting people that I've gotten to encounter in this industry. So first of all, congratulations on the new position.
Thank you.
And kind of welcome back to AV.
Yes.
We're a bit like the mob. Yeah, you think you're out and then they pull you back in. But this is kind of a look at you. So let's start with how on earth you even got into this crazy industry we call AV.
Yeah, well, I have to say, I feel like I was born into it. I started helping out at 4 in my choir, like teaching my grandmother what notes to sing, and was just immediately surrounded by AV. I just didn't really know what it was yet. And then in high school, I helped with our lyrics presentation software and our soundboard, helped mix sound for our youth group. And I'm a musician as well. So when I wasn't behind the board, I was actually on stage and helping to lead music for a church. So I've always been around it, just couldn't figure out how to actually get there full time. And then the opportunity with Avixa happened, and I was like, wow, I can make a career out of this. Like, these are my people. They get me. And I just loved being around all of the technology and being able to, talk to people who are doing the work every single day. So at Avixa, I got to help with our member programs. So I oversaw our councils, some of the more popular ones being the Avixa Women's Council and the Avixa Diversity Council. I got to work alongside the chairs and really help bring those councils to a global platform, and really got to see those grow. And in that respect, got to see our volunteers grow. And we actually ended up, I think, with over 10% growth in the number of volunteers we had.
Oh, wow.
With our programs.
Talk for a second about that start, that seed, because there are a number of folks that I've met along the way that start volunteering, whether that is at church, which is where you and I both, not the same church, but you and I both have roots there, but also even in local community theater or even at school. Talk about that need to foster those early days of a kid's interest in AV, and how that kind of helps propel you to a future career.
Yeah, I think a lot of times, from my perspective, I couldn't really figure out where I fit in. And I found that I fit in when it came to, AV in our church. And so I kind of, found that I got along with people. I understood technology. It came really easily to me. Being a musician, I was able to bring a different perspective. And I think as those teenage years are so important, and being able to bring them in and say, you might not fit with the athletic crowd, you might not fit with maybe like the brainiacs, but we've got a place for you here. And it's really cool because what you do is so vital and important. Right now, I part-time am the tech manager at my local church. And so I get to bring in volunteers, most of whom are in high school. And we get to teach them what running sound looks like, what producing a live event looks like, being able to live stream our services. There's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes to make that happen. And so we get to really teach them and give them a foundation and a safe space, I think, to really figure out what they want to do, what interests them and what doesn't.
Also is a safe space to make mistakes too.
Yes.
I've always found that over the years. When it came to whether it was when you were a teenager in the church or as you're developing your career, what sort of challenges have you faced, not just in AV, but just in career in general as a woman?
Sure. I don't know that it necessarily relates to me solely as a woman, but for me growing up, I was incredibly shy, and I'm still an introvert, but yes, I know. I get that look a lot when I tell people this. I went and got a music performance degree, and I hate being in front of people. My comms professor in college passed me, I believe, solely because he didn't want to put me through the torture again. I cried every single speech. I hated just putting myself out there. And I think some of that probably relates to my personality type. If you follow DISC, I'm a C all the way. Yeah. And so that totally, I fit into that. But I also, had some personal things that kind of related to me kind of closing down and really putting up walls. And so, a lot of the challenges I faced were really improving myself and finding ways to put myself out there and being uncomfortable in certain spaces, because that's the only way you grow is outside of your comfort zone. And so I have had the immense pleasure of being around people who comfortably pushed me to get out of that comfort zone. And, they'd give me a little nudge and I'd do it and I'd feel better about it. And then they'd nudge me a little bit further and continue to push that. And I think, that being open to doing that is important. If I stayed where I was back when I graduated college, I still would probably be living at home and not have a career and just be like a hermit in my room. Because even just leaving the house was just at some points too terrifying. And so for me, I just had to figure out, if I want to do something that impacts people, I'm going to have to leave the walls of my home, and I'm going to have to grow in some weaker areas. So, I read books, I listened to podcasts, I asked the people that I trust to help me and, to push me and challenge me.
I want to point something out here, and I want you to pull on that for a second. And it's the drive to help others that kind of drove some of your transformation there. Talk about that for a second, because I think I've said this. I know you and I have had this conversation, because I am also naturally an introvert, and I get the exact same looks that I just gave you. But that is that drive, right? You do have to have a reason to get out of your comfort zone. What was that? Was it just to leave the world a better place than you found it, or what was kind of that drive?
It was, I believe we're all meant for connection. And I believe that life is better when we are all working together. And, there's a reason that solitary confinement causes people to go insane. You were built to be in partnership with other people. And so my primary drive actually came because I realized I wanted to start a family. And I was married, but it got to the point like I didn't leave my home by myself. My husband came with me everywhere because I couldn't stand to be out in the world alone. And I realized I don't want to pass this fear on to my children someday. I don't want them to be terrified of leaving the home because mommy's terrified of leaving the home. And so I worked on myself. I saw a therapist and went through some counseling. 2 weeks after I started my therapy with my counselor, I found out I was pregnant with my first kid. So, it was the push I needed to really work on myself. That was first and foremost. And then as much as I love being behind the scenes, and I would much rather never do this. Like the fact that I'm on a podcast right now, my whole family was like, "You're doing what?" But I think it's important to share our stories. And I think our stories truly impact others. And for me, I wanted the next generation behind me to know that you might be terrified right now, or you might have a disability, or you might not feel like you can do this, but there is a way forward, and you're not the only one who's faced this. I have PTSD from trauma that I witnessed as a child, and looking at me, I hope that you wouldn't see that or notice that, and it's not something I talk about a lot. But for me, I want others to know that just because this happened to you, it doesn't define who you are. It might have changed some aspects, but you can use that to reach more people and to help more people through it.
I want you mentioned the fact that you were involved in kind of the not just the creation, but the foundation of the Avixa Women's Council and helping that to get off the ground, and incredible success now. Look forward, and I say this lovingly. Brittany is much younger than I am, so she has a few years before she retires. But look towards your retirement and look back on your career. What do you want to have seen changed?
I think one of the biggest things is just equal representation. Right now we have awards that are only open to women because women aren't being recognized in the other categories. And I actually got to sit on the awards committee for Avixa during my time there. And so I got to see the amount of people being nominated. And I can tell you during my time, there were certain categories that not a single woman was nominated for. And I don't necessarily know why that is. I have suspicions. I think at least looking at myself and as a female, I'm not always the person to raise my hand and say, look at the great thing I just did. And I think oftentimes because we're not out self-promoting what we did, it goes unnoticed. And so I think it's important for us who are in the industry, regardless of gender or diversity, I think it's important that we recognize the work being done, period. And if you see something, speak up for them, praise them, be the sponsor behind closed doors saying, look, this person just did something incredible. You guys need to know about this, and you need to be looking at them for the future. And so I think, hopefully one day, after years and years of being in this industry, if the industry ever lets me go and I can retire, I'd love to see that there's not even a need for a Women in AV award, that it's fair all across the board.
All right, so now here's the catch to that question, and that's the follow-up question. How do you, Brittany, affect that change?
I think that it's important to mentor, and I think it's important to talk about it, and to identify, this person, this woman just did something amazing, and they might not have been the front person for the thing that happened, but they were integral in making it happen. And so I think it's important to be the one that raises their hand and says, you need to look at them. They did this, and nominate, get out there and nominate people. Some people aren't going to share their story unless they're asked to. I'm one of those people. And so share their story for them. Tell the world what they're doing, and then, stand back and let them be recognized. I think that's going to be huge.
It will be. Speaking of nominations and speaking of stand up and let them be recognized, congratulations. You were just announced as the SC in the 9.
Yes.
Talk about what that is for a second and why that's important.
Yeah. So, SCN's the 9. It's the 9 people to kind of be watching out for. The up and comers who are really doing some great stuff. I am honored to be among the 8 other people. There are people that I knew out of Vixen. I was like, my gosh, they are incredible. And so to be in that class is a true honor. And honestly, when I found out about it, I was like, are you sure you have the right person? I don't know how I fit here. But it's been an honor. And for me, it really solidifies that I'm on the right path and that things happen for a reason. And I found my way over to Control Concepts for a reason, and everything's kind of coming together.
Well, I would definitely put you in the category of somebody to watch out for. So, Brittany DiCesare, thank you so much. How do people connect with you if they are so inclined?
So you can reach me on LinkedIn and Twitter at Britt Dice. And if you need any help with interoperability across your platforms for your products, I'm the person you talk to. So you can reach me at Brittany D at controlconcepts.net.
All right, very well. Brittany, thank you so much. For us, for AVNation, go by our website, avnation.tv. It's avnation.tv, and find more stories from women in AV. All that and more at avnation.tv. It's avnation.tv.